Hello, Lollygaggers. Got another show on tap tonight. We're going to talk some World Series baseball, little NFL. We're going to remember a trade. You know, the usual shenanigans here on Lollygagging Sports. As always, with my favorite Lollygaggers, I am Bo Reed along with Samantha Bunten and Matthew Irby here for you probably with the next, hour or so. So, Samantha, let's dive into this. Before we get to the World Series, something else happened in baseball today. The Gold Gloves were announced, and something caught our eye. I wanted to get your opinion on this. Apparently, we now have a utility infielder Gold Glove. Unless somebody was messing with me and sent me the wrong thing, or they were playing a joke on me. Utility Gold Glove. Is that what we're calling this?
Yeah, I don't think it's a utility infield, which is utility in general. Not that matters for the problem, because, let's talk about this for a second. For the record, I think mostly they did a good job on these. I think most of the right people won. But, why does this exist? By definition, you weren't good enough at your job to get a starting job, but now you get a prize for it. Snap count, people, you can't possibly say that is equal to winning a Gold Glove if you're the third baseman or you're the center fielder, the catcher, the pitcher. I don't care. Pick any person, because there is absolutely no way you logged as many innings as any of those people did as a utility player. And if you look at who won it, because someone will make this argument if I don't say this, these are not people who played every night for these teams. Donovan and DJ LeMahieu, it's not like they were always in the game. They were just in a different position every time. I've heard this argument made about Jeff McNeil in another context, from the hitting side, not the defensive side, where they were talking about, well, it stinks he's not really eligible for any kind of award at any position because they moved him around too much, but he was on the field every night. These guys were not. So how on earth do you say that is worth the same amount as somebody who got out there with a far, far higher number of tries? Fielding percentage on, I don't know, 100 tries is a lot different than fielding percentage on 500 tries, even though it's the same percentage, right? This is some goofy small samples. Why are we doing this?
It screams participation trophy to me. It really does. But Irby, something else I was thinking of here, because obviously one direction we can go is, well, what is the minimum amount of games you have to play in the field to be eligible for an award like this? I remember back, God, when was this? This was obviously turn of the century. This century, I should say. Rafael Palmeiro won a Gold Glove one year. He played 11 games at first base and was the Gold Glove winner at first base. I forget the year. I want to think it was 99. But I could be wrong on that. But that's immediately what I think of here. What we're doing is we're actually, what's the word here I'm looking for? We're actually giving credibility to, like Samantha said, not being good enough to play one position full time.
Not a big fan of this all. First of all, yes, well done on the Rafael Palmeiro. That was first base as a Ranger in 1999. Good job to you on that. I'm with you guys. I don't like this participation award. You said it. This almost feels like, okay, we have to find a way to get LeMahieu a Gold Glove, so let's just make something up. I know. What is the parameters here? Do they have to play a minimum of 3 different positions, X number of games? Yeah. Does it have to be? What happens if a Brendan Donovan in this case, let's say he's having a really good year as a utility, but then the third baseman gets hurt. He spends the next 100 games at third base because Arenado's out. So is he no longer eligible as the utility? Is he now the third? What is is it 50 games, more than 50 in one position? You're no longer a utility? This is just a game, a sport that has been so constant, everything. This really feels like you just kind of slap something together. But what are your rules? I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. What? No, not a fan. Sorry, not a fan in the least bit.
There really is, I think, The question here, Samantha, is we've got to have some correct. Can you imagine an agent actually with a straight face? Now, Scott Boras would do this, and he would have a binder explaining why it's important. But can you imagine an agent looking at an owner or a general manager, a member of the front office, we'll say that, straight in the face and tell them, well, my guy was the Gold Glove utility guy last year. That should be at least worth more.
Do you think that Scott Boras deigns to represent utility players?
That's a valid point.
Himself, not Boras Corp. I'm sure they have some, but like Scott Boras himself. Like,
that's valid.
Yes. I could absolutely picture an agent like trying to like straight face tell someone that. Because like, what is this, right? This is like why did this happen? Well, yeah, they wanted to give DJ LeMahieu an award, so they made one up. So somebody wants to give DJ LeMahieu a contract. So the agent's going to make something up, right? And did you know he was the utility Gold Glove winner? And there's going to be a whole bunch of people, like a bunch of lawyers sitting around a table flipping through binders, being like, that's not a real thing. Oh, okay. Right. Well, we'll tack an extra $5,000 on his contract. What? Isn't the whole point of a utility player that they can come in and play good defense? Like, that's their job. Right? Like they're a defensive replacement. They spell other people. They can get out there in the field and not screw up. The whole value of them is that they can play multiple positions. But in the end, they're not good enough at any of them to be a starter. So like, I don't understand what the parameters for this are. But somebody will do it. Absolutely. That is going to be on the table at a negotiation at some point. Probably for DJ LeMahieu.
Arbitration hearings if they're pre-arb players. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh boy, Irby. Anything else on this one before we get into the World Series?
Yeah, DJ is a Wasserman client, so I guess they're cool with it. Wasserman's cool with it. Not Boris there, but the next step. Let's end on I'll do a bad, and then we'll end on a good. The next step that I fear is we're going to give away Silver Sluggers. For utility Silver Slugger. Oh, no. You hit really well playing multiple positions. Like no. But hey, end on the good note. 14 first-time Gold Glovers. So love seeing that. Love seeing some new blood in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely yes. All right. Let's get into this into the World Series tonight. Obviously, as we're taping this, the World Series is knotted up, one apiece. The Phillies have an early lead right now in Game 3, but obviously we're early on.
And we're going to stop telling you guys what's happening in a game that will be over.
Yes, that's.
I immediately hear about it. We promised you we would stop doing this.
I immediately thought of that when I said that.
It's actually 2-0 Philly.
All right, so one thing I wanted to ask you guys because we had the rain out last night, and the Phillies immediately changed up their pitching plans for the next few games. I'm wondering, is it making too much out of this that the rain out last night does give a little bit of an advantage to the Phillies in this because they're able to move their pitching around a little bit more, things that the Astros wouldn't have to do regardless. The Astros are going to do what they were going to do whether there was a rain out last night or not. But is that something, Samantha, that's going to help Philly in this series, is going to aid Philly in this series, or am I making too much out of a rainout?
Permit me a small rant first, and then I promise to answer your question.
Oh, absolutely.
But you know who the real loser is in this? The fans, again, because now we've backed up every single game by a day. So it's not just that if you had tickets to the game that rained out, you now have to show up on a different day. Like now, every single game is on a different day than the one that it was supposed to be on. So if you took off work or planned something with your family, or rearranged your schedule around whatever World Series game, pick any one of the remaining 5 games, guess what? All of your plans are screwed up, and now you have to redo it. Sure, there even have been a rain out last night. I'm not sure that I think that there should have been in the first place. That's one thing. I wouldn't expect them to play a doubleheader, but you could have backed this up by 1 instead of doing it and at least preserved some of the integrity of the original schedule, or wipe out the off day. I don't know. There's got to be a better way to do this than making every single ticket holder change their plans. This is bad, especially because like we're kind of in the area, you know, New York. Like it didn't, the rain didn't really happen the way that they were worried about. So like another yikes. So the fans, the big losers in that, of course, and also the advertisers, because guess what? There is now no Friday night baseball game, and now Game 7 of the World Series will be competing with football. Great job, everybody. Great job. Like, now you're going to go up against that Sunday night football. Who did this? This is so dumb. Like, guys, I can't. They're so bad at this. It's unbelievable. But the good news is, to answer your original question, I do think this helps the Phillies a little bit. It's not a huge advantage. You know, I'm not sure. Suarez, Syndergaard, okay, probably you're going to end up using them both at some point. But because, as you pointed out, the Astros didn't change what they were doing. The Phillies got a little bit of a break. You know, we saw in Game 1, Suarez came in, which was the right move. That was the right call. And then the Astros responded by bringing in their starter, and it made absolutely no sense. And it burned him in the end because Garcia, who I always want to call him the salsa baby because of this weird motion that looks like salsa dance and rocking baby at the same time. And I can't remember his real name. But brought in Garcia, and it was like a disaster. It looked like they caught, like Dusty looked up and went, oh, we should do that too, which actually didn't make any sense for them. But what it sort of did is sort of negate any consequences for that for Philly. So I think that's good news. You know, we can debate whether Suarez, Syndergaard, whether there's truly any advantage in that. But it did allow them to go back to what they would have done originally if they hadn't had to, I don't want to say burn a starter, but use a starter for a couple of innings in the first game.
And I do agree with you on what you were ranting about there. I'm wondering, like, did they overreact because of other issues they've had in the postseason?
Yes.
They were really quick. I'm out to dinner with my fiance, trying to figure out what's going on with this game, and they were quick. Like, it was like 7 Eastern time. Like they made that decision fast. It makes me wonder if they were overreacting just a little bit to what happened earlier this postseason. Irby, how about you? Same question. Is there an advantage here for the Phillies now that they had an extra day to shuffle their pitching around?
Yes. On your other point, I too thought it was a quick button. I kind of appreciate that they did it a little early because I was charging up my headphones to go trick-or-treating and have a headphone in and be able to listen to the game while trick-or-treating with the kids. And pretty quick, hey, I guess I don't have to do that. Phone's fully charged, headphones fully charged, but I don't need it. Awesome. Thanks. Yes, for the exact same reason of what Samantha said, I think that's what it was an advantage for Philly here, getting Suarez, because I agree. I too agree. He was the right move of using him there in Game 1. And so you reset. I mean, it's funny how this works. It really does now feel like this is a 5-game series and best of 5. So here we go. And so I don't know. I mean, it didn't hurt either side because it's just one game. I mean, I guess technically it's 2 days. But that's in baseball. That's really not enough for anything to cool off or something like that, which is the good news. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna make me answer yes. I think it does help Philly a little bit, but how much? I mean, we'll see. Aside from the Suarez, if he does well tonight, then yes, it definitely helped out. So there, I'll stick with that.
Samantha, one notable thing that did not happen was Zach Wheeler was not moved up beyond Game 6. He's still the Game 6 starter. How concerned should we all be about his fatigue? His velocity is down.
Yeah, and he didn't look like himself, and okay, anybody can have a bad outing. I mean, the drop in velocity is a little bit more concerning to me than like not being able to hit your spots, because I think sometimes you're just off. But and these guys have bad games. I mean, it's a hell of a time to have a bad game, but it happens, But the drop in velo is a little bit concerning. The pitch count when it all happened is very concerning to me. I mean, he hasn't looked great. That makes me super nervous, especially if that's a series deciding game, which I'm guessing the way this is going, it won't be. But still, like at that point, like somebody's either, well, technically it almost has to be series deciding, right? Like we don't know for a fact that it won't be. So I don't know. I mean, I guess, okay, everything gets pushed back a day or whatever, and like maybe that helps you in that capacity. But like if the guy's arm is just spent, like that's different than like, wow, I could really use an extra day of rest, or man, I just had a bad outing. Because to me, he just looks like a guy who's like a little bit done, which is like, I don't know. That worries me a lot. Like that is, I think, my primary concern right now. That and the fact that listings on these players are hilarious. Like I've just seen a gentleman for the Astros who is 6'6" and 190 pounds. And I thought, that sounds unlikely. That just feels wrong.
It very well.
Who did this?
Man,
that's not accurate.
190. You are a beanpole.
Yeah, but he doesn't look like Tristan McKenzie, right? He looks like 3 of Tristan McKenzie. So, like, I feel like that's probably not accurate. But I was just running through the list, and I was like, wow, there's no way that's right. Okay, interesting.
Irby, same question to you. How concerned are you here with Zach Wheeler?
I'm very concerned. Same thing. This is not short rest, and you didn't have it. This is, extra rest, and you didn't have it. So yeah, this feels more like arm fatigue into the season, running on empty. And there's a difference between running on empty, knowing you've got you need 1, maybe 2 more starts left in the season, and you kind of, pitchers, and not just pitchers, any athlete out here, not outside of baseball, is baseball, football, basketball, hockey, all these sports, you can be hurt and you can get through it for one game. You can get through it for one night. But the drop of velocity, the rest that he had, full rest, extra rest, drop of velocity, yes, this definitely feels like more than being able to grit it through. And the sad thing, the scary thing for Philly is that might have been his effort gritting it through. And if it is, you can't start him again, or you're going to have a stupid quick hook on him.
Yeah, maybe we have an opener in World Series Game 6. Okay, so early impressions here, Samantha. From obviously Game 1 was an incredible comeback by the Phillies. I turned it off, I think, when it was 5-0. They came back, obviously, and won that one. The Astros come back, win Game 2. Where do you think this series stands right now? Momentum is always as good as your next starting pitcher, so I'm not asking about momentum. Where do you feel like this series stands between these two? Who's feeling best right now after splitting the first 2?
Well, coming into Game 3, which obviously we don't have the privilege of knowing how that one turns out yet. You guys will when you hear this, but I mean, the easy answer is, well, whoever wins Game 3 has all the advantage, right? Sure. But I'm not sure that's true. To me, it's, I don't know. I think if you're the underdog and you can take a lead in the series, that's the big advantage, right? Because if Houston takes a 1-game lead, then they're doing what they're supposed to do. It's just business. If Philly takes a 1-game lead, that feels like a big advantage, particularly because then you've got 2 more at home, probably not going to run the table and just end the World Series before going back to Houston. But it is a huge advantage. It means you have games to give, despite the fact that you are not the team expected to win this. So, I think that's sort of the deciding factor for me, kind of at this point when the series changes locations and we move into the visiting team's ballpark. But right now, I'm sort of torn between the fact that I'm very, very worried about Philly's pitching, super worried. It's not just Wheeler. Mm-hmm. It's the idea of we don't know what Syndergaard is going to look like. Nola has not been perfect. Suarez is okay, but he is very much the guy who is the third starter who you wish you didn't have to use in the postseason, despite the fact that he has done a good job. This is no disrespect to Richard Suarez. He's done a lovely job. It's just he's not exactly the lights out guy that you hope for in that position, and Houston doesn't have that problem. So, you're a little bit, I think, at a disadvantage. there, and obviously the Houston bullpen far superior, but I still feel like Philly is like the hotter team here. So, and I don't know. I mean, at what point do we stop saying that? Because the Astros keep winning baseball games. Sooner or later, we're going to have to, right? But like until that happens, I don't know. I feel like they want it more. I really do. I feel like they care about this more. I feel like they've done a better job of going out and winning games they shouldn't win, which matters a lot more at this point than winning games that you should win, because that's just your job, right? So we're back to that again.
Irby, anything you want to add there?
I 100% agree. This is, Houston, you really just have to take one here in Philadelphia. You put yourself in a much better position if you can take two in Philadelphia, obviously. And this kind of goes back to the whole thing of what we were just talking about as well of resetting. You look at Philly moving Nola up, and for Game 4, and Verlander stays back in Game 5. It's almost like Philly's setting themselves up. And there's no way Nola can go in Game 7, but he's probably going to be available for something if you get to that point, and you're pushing your chips in here. If you can get a win in Game 3 and you got Nola in 4, you're feeling really, really good about yourselves. The other thing of Philly is what was super important about that comeback is that it showed to you, which you knew, but it's different. The confidence is there in the clubhouse that we can take this Houston team. Yes, you're the underdog, blah, 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 blah. You're not supposed to do that. They don't care. We talked about that last week. They're head down, blowing through road barriers like they don't exist. But then you went out and you did it. And there's something different between confident that you can do it is different than doing it. And they did it in Game 1. And I know that it was a little crazy having to do that, come back from down 5-0, but you did it, and you proved to yourselves that you did it, and from then on you can. It didn't happen in Game 2, but it wasn't going to. Philly was never going to sweep this. Philly's not going to win this in 5. Houston's going to find a way to win 2 games here in this series. I would be utterly shocked if Philly did this in 5. So, but that's the beauty is that you just have to find a way now with these last 5 games to win 3. It's not. You're not behind the 8 ball. You're not having to press. I know, Bo, that's when you talk a lot. You see batters where they start pressing it because they get nervous. And you don't see this from this Philadelphia team. They are just they believe now. They believed it themselves that they can do this and they can win this. But it's a different feel when you actually go out and do it in a game. And they did that. And now you've got a Game 3 where you have an opportunity to do it again. And what they need is to take a lead, hold the lead the whole game. You do that, you have the comeback win, and then you have a lead from start to finish. And at that point, you are definitely feeling like, okay, they can't stop us.
All right, so, Astros fans out there, listen up, because this is one of the few compliments I'm ever going to give that team. The way they came out in Game 2 after blowing Game 1 late the way they did. Coming out Game 2, everything was business. It was all business. They took care of business. A lot of teams would have still had last night in their heads. The Astros obviously didn't do that. They came out and won Game 2, and when you lose Game 1, Game 2 is obviously a must-win territory, but when you lose it the way the Astros did, that makes it even more must-win. The way they were very methodic throughout Game 2 and winning that baseball game. I bring that up, Samantha, because the one thing that we have seen from the Phillies this year, and this is how they keep what's the word here? How am I trying to phrase this? They keep cheating fate. They keep proving everywhere that baseball is not about how a team looks on paper. It's about the game. It's about the team and how they play that particular series. This is a very emotional ball club. The fans in Philly have been they've been an emotional charge into these Phillies, going all the way back to Game 1 of the wild card round when they came back on the road against the Cardinals. All this emotion is what Philly thrives on. I think that's going to obviously aid them in the next 3 games. But is it enough to push them past a clearly better team in Houston?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I also struggle a little bit with, at what point do we have to stop calling Houston the better team if Philly takes the lead in the series?
Sure.
I think that it's okay, Philly takes a 1-game lead. You can still argue that Houston's a better team. But what happens if they take a 2-game lead? Do we have to stop saying that? Like, how do we define good? Like, I just had a conversation with somebody about this the other day, who's sort of let's say, a moderately educated baseball fan, saying, well, how do you define, like, good? Who's better? Like, and I'm like, well, it doesn't really work that way, because you can't just line up, like, well, here are all the Houston starting pitchers, and here are the Philly hitters, and it's this guy versus this guy. Like, it doesn't really work that way by the time we get to this point, especially with a team like Philly that theoretically shouldn't be here. But are we going to say they're not good? I mean, they have outlasted teams that were theoretically far better than they are. So at that point, I have to come back to the idea that, like, yeah, it is a huge advantage because it's worked for them, that they are this team that is hugely motivated by things that are kind of like, well, it sort of goes beyond your abilities, right? You just want it more. You want to do it for your fans. Like, they're responding well to that. But credit to the Astros, too, because they're not bothered by it. That's the thing. Right. So it's like, okay, it's probably less of an advantage than it would be over a team like, the Yankees, the first one to come to mind, because they're the ones that just did it, but you could probably say it about the Dodgers too, and you could say it about the Braves. These teams that just give up, like, wow, you guys are super into this. We feel very beaten. This is discouraging. These people are too excited. They want it too bad, and then they lay down and die. The Astros don't do that. Like, they were fine. Like you said, they came out. Business as usual. It didn't bother them that this team seems to have more passion than anyone else. They didn't care. So, I mean, even when they're losing, like, they're not giving up, which is what we keep coming back to with them, and it's why they won't go away. So, I don't know. Like, part of me feels like that is a huge thing for Philly. I think that matters so much, and it may ultimately be the thing that gets us done for them in the end. But I also don't think the Astros are nearly as affected by that, probably because they're used to everybody hating them, because, like, well, of course everybody hates them. It's just kind of business as usual for them. They're used to this, right? Everybody wants to beat you really badly because everybody hates you. So I guess that just becomes your resting state. But you wonder, okay, does it nullify the effect if the other team doesn't care? Or does the effect it has on your team exist independently of that, because you're still going to do things that will ultimately put you out front?
Yeah. Irby, same question to you. What would you like to add there?
Nothing. That was good. I mean, it's it's we're all being nice and we're saying good. I mean, this is what Houston does, and they've done since 2017. I know it was a little more illegal back then, but still, this is what this team does. That's what they were built around, is to, just, okay, take it on the chin, move on, get the next thing done. And because we talk about that with baseball. Baseball is a sport where you have a bad night, you watch it. I mean, I said that, especially in regular season, it's a totally different story. But in regular season, it's, wow, fans even going, I can't believe, you think they'll be fine tomorrow? They lost by 12 tonight. Yeah, they've already forgotten about that. But you move on. And World Series, it's a little bit harder, but that is a mindset, and that is something that this Astros team, the core of these guys that have been here, Altuve, Alvarez, Bregman, Gurriel, these guys have done this enough where it's just kind of, I mean, you can break it down to simple in game one of going, all right, that's on us. I know Philly came back, but you do that to yourself. You go, that's on us. We let them come right back in, and they beat us. And you come out and you get it done the next day, and this is where, I mean, I go back to this. It is all washed. And in the rain analogy, whatever you want, it's all washed. This is a 5-game series.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. This is why I love these postseason series that have like 7 games. Baseball has it, hockey has it, basketball has it. Like, you split games 1 and 2, it's not the best of 5. And if you're the road team and you split on the road, all of a sudden you got the next 3 at home. So it's just fun. Samantha, anything else you want to add here on the World Series before we get into the NFL?
No, just to follow up on what you're saying, though. I can't remember if I said this on this show or not, guys. If I did, I apologize. It's been a long couple of weeks. But this is why I think the road team has an advantage as long as they get that split.
Right.
Like, give me absolutely, I would way rather, as long as I can salvage a split in the first 2 games, I would way rather have those 3 games in the middle than I would the 2 on the front and 2 on the back. Now, talk to me in game 7 when it's my team going into somebody else's house, and I might feel a little bit different. But guess what? The numbers on that aren't good either. The visiting team in a winner-take-all game, in the last game of a postseason series, no matter what number game it is, when it's winner-take-all, the visiting team almost always wins. So, at what point do you not want to be the home team in this situation? Like, it just feels like
except for the 3 of us. The 3 of us hate that stat.
Yeah, that made me cringe just a little.
Oh, because the Guardians were one of the few that didn't get it. Yeah, that didn't happen.
And the Rangers.
And the Rangers. Yeah.
Oh, you want to go way back. I was referring to this season.
Oh, yeah. No, but that stat is true along the line in Game 7s. Game 7s in the World Series go the way of the visiting team.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Any winner take all postseason series.
Yeah, no, that's the point I made. Our teams in recent history. Yeah. No, our teams in recent history has not gone well. You guys against the Cubs and us against the Cardinals, not great. Hate that stat.
Oh, I don't think that applied to us with the Cubs, but it does apply to you with the Cardinals, and it did apply to us with the Marlins as well. Although, wait a minute. That was still... Hold on. How do we even calculate those ones that happened during the All-Star game determines the home team series? Because the whole argument for why this was happening is because it meant basically that the home team was not really better despite their better record and that they couldn't get it done. Like, the point being, of course, if it goes 7 or 5 or however long the series is, the visitor's going to win because you should never have let it get that far. But, like, doesn't that kind of get neutralized in any World Series that took place during the great, All-Star game home field advantage debacle because there really was no underdog in that capacity? Something to think about. But the stat holds regardless. And yes, we have all been burned by this. Very sad.
You mentioned things like that, and you think about that actually was a thing. The All-Star game winner determined home field in the World Series. You link that with all. It's amazing that Manfred is actually worse than Selig.
We don't talk enough about how bad Bud Selig was and how happy we were to see him go because he was a terrible commissioner, and then we got Rob Manfred and everything got worse.
Definitely, that whole dance with the devil that brought you. Yeah. Feeling that.
Yeah.
Feeling that now. Irby, how about you? Anything else on the World Series before we hit the NFL?
No. Let's flip over to some football.
All right. Let's do that. Let's flip over to some football. So we've got a couple of games we're going to chat about here before we get into our trade for this week. Samantha, let's start. Bills and Jets, and obviously we've talked about the Bills quite a bit on this program. We talked about the Jets a little bit last week, but I want to take a different angle here with the Jets. Just because they've actually forced this conversation, are they legitimate wild card contenders? I mean, obviously they're not going to challenge the Bills for the East, but the way the rest of the AFC is going, are they legit? Could they potentially be playing on wild card weekend?
So record-wise, yeah. I mean, I think we have to at least consider it because, like, if you look at what the records in the AFC look like right now, even whether it's the better conference or not, when you look at the records, you look at the Jets record, like, basically they could go, like, 500 the rest of the season, and it might be enough to get a playoff berth, depending on, we don't know what the win total is going to be. Is it going to be 10? Is it going to be 11? If that's what gets you in, then the Jets may very well get there. Now, the schedule's going to get a little bit tougher, so that 500 looks... maybe a little bit rougher. But from that perspective, when you think about what they would have to do the rest of the way in order to get there, then yes, we have to consider that. However, when you actually look at the product on the field, if you watch the Jets play football, they sure don't look like they belong in the postseason. And I say this as somebody who likes the Jets and who wants them to do well. And I do think they have made a ton of progress. I think Saleh is a good coach. I think they have a lot of talent there. I'm not sure Zach Wilson's the guy, even though we all want him to be, so we're all rooting for him. We love Zach Wilson. But they didn't look great. I mean, and I know in the Patriots always beat the Jets. Yeah. I know it's one game; it doesn't matter. But and in the grand scheme of things, that one game is not going to mean anything. But we'll see how they bounce back this week. And guess what? They get the Bills, so that feels supremely unlikely. The Jets are not going to come out and beat the Bills. It ain't going to happen. So back-to-back losses puts you a little bit in a hole, and I don't know, guys. I don't know if they have the talent. I mean, it's a weird year. Like, basically there's like 3 good teams and everyone else stinks. So, I mean, that is how you get into the postseason if you're a team like the Jets that, like, doesn't suck but isn't good. I mean, this would be the year for it, right? But I'm having a hard time selling this to myself, even though I want to so badly because I think it'll be fun.
So what you're suggesting is the Jets are going to be the playoff team of the suck. They're in the suck playoffs.
I mean, yeah. I mean, does anybody? How many teams exist in the NFL right now that deserve to go to the playoffs? Because I count like 6, and there's a lot more playoff spots than that, guys.
You're being more generous than I would be. Irby, where are you at on this whole conversation? Are the Jets legitimate wild card is because the rest of the league is just awful? Where are we at here?
Yes.
Okay, I asked you a few questions there, so I don't know if yes is the appropriate answer.
But it is all about no.
I mean, it was though. Technically, it was correct.
It was. Oh man.
Sorry. I was in a class all day. I'm in a yes/no mode. No. It is. This is a wild card worthy team. This is a team that the product that they are putting on the field, and I know. Samantha, you mentioned it about the Patriots, and even what happens this week against the Bills. It's not anything to shudder about. I mean, I say that they still have to go out and you got to get the job done. Is this a franchise that in the past that we could sit here and make a conversation of they're probably going to finish 5-12? Yes, we could do that. It's not going to happen. I think this is a team, and we've talked about it before, with what's left on their that they can win enough games. And how the AFC, the lower part, not the upper echelon, and that's where I think it's a great discussion of. This is a discussion of, is this team a wildcard worthy team? Yes. Now, the issues they're going to have is they got the Bills now, and you didn't beat the Patriots, and the Dolphins went out and traded all the picks they got for Trey Lance. Well, they really wasn't on the Trey Lance, but still, the Dolphins went out and made 2 trades, adding Bradley Chubb and Jeff Wilson Jr. So you sit there and it's like, okay, it's a tough division that we can sit and make a very good argument could have 2 teams coming out of it. I mean, I don't think all 3 teams could come out of it. That would be something incredible. Here we go, all the entire East in the postseason. Probably not going to happen, but we can make that argument. But I do think 2 teams come out of here, and so the Jets are in a position. You're in the game. You're in the conversation. We're approaching halfway. You are in the conversation.
Which I think if you'd asked any Jets fans before the season to be in the conversation going into November, I think they'd have taken it. Samantha, anything you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I did go through and do a quick count because I was perhaps unkind. I've counted 10 teams that I think belong in the playoffs, which does still leave some space for the Jets. I did not count the Jets in that. So, I have Dallas, the Giants, San Francisco, Philly, Buffalo, Minnesota, Seattle, Tennessee, Kansas City, and Baltimore. That's it. That's 10. So there's room for the Jets.
Buying the Giants. Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm buying the Giants at their current record, but I'm buying the Giants as being able to being good enough to go into the postseason. Yeah.
Got it. Gotcha. Okay.
I am. I believe in Brian.
All right. Let's pick this thing, shall we? Bills and Jets. Who are you going with, Samantha?
Oh, the Bills. I don't even think this is going to be close. I'm sad for the Jets. I hope they know that this is this is just a thing to be endured. Actually, I hope they make it a game because it would be more fun that way. And I would love to see the Jets hang around because I'd like to see how the Bills respond to that. And I think it would be good for the Jets too. But I don't actually think this is going to be close at all. I think Buffalo is going to kill them.
Irby, how about you?
Bills easy because it's in New Jersey. Jets are 4-0 on the road, so Talk to me when they head up to Buffalo. But yeah, Bills win.
I am also taking the Bills. They're the better team, and frankly, they should have. I don't know. The Jets seem to come out and when you don't give them any chance, they come out and prove you're wrong. So I'll give them a slight chance. How's that, Samantha? Let's give them like a 5% chance of winning this game.
Sure, I think that's reasonable. Or, I mean, I haven't seen the line yet on this game, but I mean, I would be willing to entertain the idea of the Jets against the spread if the spread is double digits. I would entertain that.
13.
13? Okay, give me the Jets against the spread then.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Buffalo is going to win by more than that, but that is big enough to where, like, any NFL spread or like 11 makes me really nervous. So I'll take the Jets against the spread. Why not?
All right. Okay. Seahawks are in Arizona to face the Cardinals. Smith, let's talk about Geno Smith because what do we call it? We can't call it a resurgence. I mean, is this a surgence? Is that where we're at with Geno Smith? Like, I'm trying to figure out.
Not a resurgence, but a surgence.
I'm trying to figure out what to call this because I don't know what to call this.
I mean, weirdly, this new word, which is now a word on this podcast, a surgence. Absolutely. We've never really seen, and I don't know, it's like the easy dunk to be like, he got away from the Jets and now he's good. But I don't know that it's that simple. I mean, there was certainly some mischaracterization going on with Geno Smith. I mean, the guy's a pocket passer, and everybody was spending all their time being like, where does he run? Why does he run? And you're like, what? Like, it doesn't even make sense. That's not what he does. So there was some mischaracterization going on there, and I think that he was used by previous Jets coaches in ways that made absolutely no sense. Also, the Jets were terrible, so everybody there was just going to look bad, right? So some of that's just awful luck for him. You know, I mean, raise your hand if you had Pete Carroll resurrecting anyone's career on your bingo card at this point. Put your hands down, everybody. I don't believe you. I mean, I will say this. It lends a lot of credence to the stuff that's coming out of Seattle now where everybody's kind of saying, yeah, like Russ, like it was a problem. And I know after a guy leaves, there's always this uptick of, I never liked that guy anyway, from ex-teammates and current Seahawks members and Seahawks fans. It's like, I think it's part of the catharsis. I mean, I know my fellow Cleveland fans, well, I'm not a Browns fan anymore, but I was one once upon a time before they turned completely evil, back when they were just incompetent. And every time a guy left, everybody'd be like, I never liked that guy. I hated that guy. Players, fans, everybody. And it's like, no, we all loved him. And then it didn't work out. And I guess this is just like how we're dealing with our parting, like, so that we don't have to mourn it. Like, the whole thing with Russ is weird, but it does lend some credence to, I mean, who won that trade right now, right? Like, I mean, now it looks like, well, if you swapped Russell Wilson for Geno Smith straight up, Seattle won the trade. Plus, they got other stuff in that deal. So, whoa, like, I don't know that I think that's an entirely fair way to look at it or entirely fair to Russ in any way, but it looks pretty suspicious that the Seahawks are doing this well because Geno Smith, as much as he's been outstanding, and I don't want to say anything bad about this because, like, I'm rooting for this guy. Like, I think he got a very bad deal early in his career, like, real bad in a way that there's no way he could have controlled a lot of it. I mean, are we really buying like Geno Smith league MVP? I don't think so. I just don't buy it. I mean, if I'm wrong, that's awesome. Good for Geno. I'm happy for him. But I don't know, guys. I don't know.
I can't even figure out what to call what we're watching. So, Irby, I'm going to defer to you here. What do you think here? Is this something that's going to last with Geno Smith, or is this a point where he's about to turn into a pumpkin?
I don't think he turns into a pumpkin. I don't see this thing lasting too terribly long. I to the point of winning a division or anything like that. But this is, they are, because they've had, a couple of their losses have not been great, and you're beating teams, which I'm again, I don't want to take anything away. You are winning, what's on your rod, but they haven't played the Rams yet. You got throttled by the Niners.
That's not going to help.
Well, and that's a good point. Like the Rams right now are kind of
terrible.
Yeah,
awful.
Yeah, I don't know if I could take the Rams beating, but and the funny thing is it doesn't. Seattle, because of where you finished last year, you have a favorable, schedule this year, and it's playing in their favor, and they're winning the games in front of them, and I love that it's, what is it, the Geno Smith revenge tour, beating the Chargers, beating the Giants, even though it was just 1 year there. They do have, what is it, week 17, they play the Jets, so he gets to play all his teams again. It'd be amazing if he can get all three of those wins. I'll definitely be cheering for that one. But because of what happened in their game against San Fran, I'm not buying this as a win the division, but that also San Francisco has to put their games together and keep winning and get back in front of them, because the Seahawks are leading and they are currently in the playoffs as we were to play today, and we're halfway through. So, yeah, and the other thing too is it's not like they are winning just with Geno. This is with defense. This is with run game. Who would have thought? I mean, it's been a while, but they finally, oh yeah, we can run the ball and be successful. Yeah, you can. So they're not just relying on Geno, and that's why it doesn't. I don't think this turns into a pumpkin, because he would have to suddenly fall off a cliff in his play, and I don't see that happen. Geno's been around long enough. He knows this game. He knows how to not lose games, and that's what he's doing. He's not losing games, and he's putting his team in a position to win. And so far, in their 8 times, they've won 5. So, hey, I can't say anything negative. Good job.
All right, Samantha, let's switch over to the Cardinals. Obviously, they're coming off their loss to the Vikings on Sunday. The 3-5. Not really all that well. I guess because of the division they're in, they're still somewhat relevant. But how would you characterize where the Cardinals are? Are they fringe? Are they? I guess you'd have to call them like a wannabe playoff contender. Like, where are we at here with the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, they're in the weaker conference. Like we said, everybody's bad. So if you're mediocre, you're still in the game, right? Even in week 9, if you are just okay, you're in the mix with everybody else. So from that standpoint, yeah, the Cardinals are still part of this. There's absolutely no reason why they can't get themselves to the postseason. But, like, have you ever seen – well, no, I know the answer to this. We've seen this a million times. But we'll call it instead one more example of a team where you just look at it and you're like, there is so much talent on that roster. How are they this bad? Because they're not good, guys. They're not even average. Like, they will sometimes put together a series that looks phenomenal, and you're like, that's the thing that made us all think they were better than this, because when they look good, they look really, really good. But it's like they can't put it together. There's a huge disconnect between Cliff and Kyler. That's part of this. I go back and forth as to whose fault it is. Right now I'm on Kyler because I spent a lot of time defending Kyler in the offseason, and he's been pretty much a jackass ever since then.
Yeah.
So I'm not real hot on him right now, and he's not exactly playing in a way that will shut me up. But also Cliff has to coach an entire team, right? It's not just Kyler and like this defense. No, we're good, which some of that's not his fault. I mean, I think they have missed a little bit, and this team has been, this is something I think we talk about more in baseball, but it's not a bad roster. It's like a poorly constructed roster. So that's part of the problem too. And that's on Steve Keim, not Cliff Kingsbury, but like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just right now I look at this and think like, you guys have a ton of talent and a ton of potential. And sometimes you'll put it together for like a drive or a quarter, but I've yet to see them play 4 good quarters of football on the same Sunday, which doesn't bode well.
All right, same question to you there, Irby. What are you making of the Cardinals here going into week 9?
Well, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 is out, so Kyler's happy.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with his football. Well, no, it does have to do with his football. I do love that stat, how poorly he plays whenever there's Call of Duty tournaments. Kind of hilarious. there was a time early on in the season. I know you started the season, it didn't go great. You're playing against Kansas City, but after that, the defense showed up, and the defense is doing a great job and kept them in games where the offense didn't have to be on point. And you weren't winning. I mean, you still lost more games than you won, and that's the offensive point. But now the defense is not performing, and the offense had a little bit better, but there's some trash points in there too. Like it's just Samantha's point's spot on. Like it is the consistency is the lack of consistency, the ineptness of consistency here is just unreal, because this is a Cardinals team that has the ability to come out and beat everyone. If this Cardinals team beats Seattle at home on Sunday by 20 plus points, we are not going to be sitting here going, wow, that was amazing. It would be more of, okay, yeah, here we go. This is what they're capable of doing. Just like if they were to lose 19-9 to them again, we would sit here as well and go, yeah, you look at the way they play. I mean, it is just, and it's not I harped on the Colts with the same thing, but the Cardinals today, it is, who knows? Who knows? And the sad thing is they've got 3 straight divisional games. So Arizona can turn this all around right now. They have the opportunity to turn it all around, and they could be 6-5 with 3 straight wins against their division. But this is the Samantha asked for you to raise your hands if you saw Pete Carroll turn around. Raise your hands if you see Arizona winning those 3 games in a row. And I know none of you raised your hands again, because none of it. I have zero confidence that they could put, like you said, let alone put 1 game together. The chances of putting 3 straight, no. And this is where I lean on it more. And I'm not a huge Kyler fan. I think there's issues there, but this is where I put it on coaching. This comes down to coaching. This lack of consistency. I just no. I don't have confidence that they could put this together 3 straight games, and especially in a game here with a Seattle team that's finding ways not to lose.
All right, let's pick it then. Samantha, who do you have here? Seahawks or Cardinals?
Seahawks. I toyed with it a little bit. It is in Arizona. It's divisional, but honestly, I'm so out on the Cardinals right now. I can't do it. They would have to do a lot more to convince me that I should be taking them in a game like this than they've done.
Irby, how about you?
I want a homer pick and take Arizona to notch Seattle down a little bit, but the same thing. I just can't do it. I just can't. There's not enough. We're talking about the consistency. I just can't do it. Seattle will find a way again not to lose, and Arizona will find a way to lose.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think I'm going to add a little. I guess double down on what you're saying, Samantha. Arizona has to win again before I pick them. They just do. You got to prove to me you can win a football game before I pick you again. I don't care who you play. All right.
This is why I've sworn off the Chargers for the rest of the season. I'll never take the Chargers again. Cannot make me. I don't care who they play. Never again. Never.
Okay. Well, I think it's time to remember a trade, Samantha. What do you have for us tonight?
All right. Well, thought we ought to talk about, because this is maybe the last. Let's remember some trades of the season. We'll see. This is going to be the last in-season baseball that we have. So I thought that we would want to kind of link it back to this particular World Series. So for that reason, I did pick a trade that happened on July 29, 2010 that involved the Philadelphia Phillies.
July 2010.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. What were the Phillies up to in 2010, Irby?
They were 20. That's about the same time. This was a playoff team. This wasn't. The Mets were terrible. The Marlins didn't care. The Braves weren't winning just yet. So this is.
Right. So they're definitely the buyers. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are. Yes, they're the buyer. So yeah, this is. I mean, they're coming off 2 straight World Series appearances here. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Because they won in 08, lost to the Yankees in 09. Okay. Just 2 teams?
2 teams.
2 teams, okay. Man. Was this a rental, or do they have him for more than just the rest of that year?
This person did remain with the Phillies the following year. But I believe that was a 1-year contract.
It's not it's not the Chase Utley trade, is it, Irby?
No. That comes later.
Oh, she knows. I don't.
I know. I'm trying to brainstorm with you here, man.
Yeah, he's trying to get you involved. But no, it is not the Chase Utley trade. Chase Utley is still Philly at this point.
Okay, so this is in the height of Holiday Hamels.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, Holiday Hamels. I want to say it's a pitcher just because that offense. Oh, wait a minute. When it's not a rental, when you're saying it's not a rental, because that was.
Technically it was a rental, but they re-signed the guy for the following year. So do with that what you will.
Was this a trade for an Angels pitcher?
No.
No, damn.
Okay.
It is a pitcher, though. You're right.
It is a pitcher. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a starting pitcher?
Yeah, it's a starting pitcher.
No, wait, not the Angels, the A's.
No.
Still no.
Still no.
Well, I got Joe Blanton on my mind. I don't know why.
Not Joe Blanton. Later? Is that later? I don't know. I can't remember when that happened. I think that didn't really work out that great.
It didn't.
Yeah, that was another. Maybe not a great move. This one worked out a little better.
Did it work out for the other team?
In a sense, yes. Although, really, it worked out because these things were flipped for other things.
Ooh. Oh, okay. So it was the follow-up trades that made this a win for both.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. Ooh, like that.
That's another layer to this onion. Ooh.
Pitcher.
What pitcher did they add in 2010?
Holiday.
At Holiday, they had Hamels. Who's a third? Who's a 3 behind them?
Oh! I know why you're doing this. I know.
Yeah. There is a reason I picked this trade, and
look at you. I am standing and well done. Have you been holding on to this one?
Yeah.
Well done. Oh, I'll bet you were excited to do this one.
I was. It's so exciting to me. Sometimes he reads my mind. This is one of those moments where he reads my mind, where he knows exactly what I get.
Wow.
It's great. Nice to have a mind reading friend. I like that.
Sometimes we do it for good. Yeah, okay. And now I know why you said the other thing about trade it away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, yeah. So, all right. So he knows who the pieces that goes to the Phillies. I'm guessing you know who a couple of the guys who went the other way are.
I know two. Well. I know 2 names.
I'm guessing I know which one you're missing too.
See, now you're reading his mind. You just read each other's minds here.
Yeah.
You've gotten good at it over the years.
Happens a lot.
This actually does happen a lot more than you think. Know what you're doing. Sometimes it's like you're in my brain. Would be creepy. Right now, though, it's highly functional. Useful. So Irby knows what this trade is. He knows why I picked this trade. So before we get into this and before we start sort of revealing pieces of this or allowing Irby to reveal pieces, we're going to give you guys at home as well as Bo another chance to think about this. And part of the mind reading he did here, like this is, I think, the best hint I can give you, at least to sort of start narrowing this down, is that the biggest hint that I could give from what he has kind of already said to you is that he said there's a reason you picked this trade. And what he meant by that is there's a reason I picked this trade right now at this exact time, and it relates to something I said at the very beginning of this conversation. So what does that tell you, at the very least, about who the other team involved in this trade is?
Houston?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
God, okay.
Yeah. So
2010.
Yeah,
Houston
that isn't. I
really
guess
bad.
I did this on purpose. Wanted to get a Philly Houston trade in here during our Philly Houston World Series. So yes, that was deliberate. Irby was correct. So this is Houston is the seller. Philly is the buyer. Ultimately, they're probably both winners in this in a very convoluted way on Houston end. Philly on Houston's end, and on Philly's end, I think this worked out pretty well for them.
Who did the Astros have in 2010 that they could trade? I mean, they were pretty bad back
That's
then.
the only thing I don't. Is it just one piece going to Philly, or is there something else?
It's a guy in cash. So they took some cash to salary relief because this person would have been fairly expensive at this point and probably not worth the money he was being paid. So it's guy plus cash here. But just one piece going to the Phillies and 3 pieces coming back.
The only pitcher I could think of back then was Roy Oswald.
There you go. You got it.
That's because,
Well, I mean, for some reason, I thought he was already gone by 2010. Oh, well.
No, you got it exactly right. Good job.
Because that set up that, and it's why I was able to get there, is because of the series they lost. They lost to the Giants in the NLCS in what was amazing pitching matchups on both sides. And I believe, isn't this the year that Halladay threw the no-hitter against Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I remember this Philly. Yeah, that one too. Wasn't Blanton on that team?
Yeah.
No, we're talking about, he was? Okay, so this was...
Yeah, it's just nobody remembers him because I don't think he actually started a game in the postseason because he was so freaking bad.
Yeah.
But
what's funny is
roster by then. Yeah.
Well, it'd been nice that one of the players they gave up really would have helped that. But then it wouldn't have gotten this guy. So
right.
Who was the other pitcher? I don't know. But yes, I do remember that 1-2-3. But I just that both teams, that Phillies and Giants NLCS.
Yeah. It was
just beautiful pitching and a great Rangers hitting team that ran into wasn't going to do anything against those pitching.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not as painful as 2011, but still, ouch.
All right, so we have 3 guys. Irby, do you want to tell me the positions? We'll give people a little hint here. Tell me the positions of the guys that you know, so I can figure out which one you're missing. I'm pretty sure I already know, but tell the people.
Starting pitcher and I believe he was a shortstop at the time.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. So the one you're missing is, well, here's a hint for you. The person you're missing is currently a Cleveland Guardian. Although it's not as though that was his next stop. He made several stops in between. But he is currently a Guardian. He also plays a different position now for the Guardians. Every Guardians fan is going to know who I mean now. But he plays a different position now for the Guardians than he played for Houston.
So it's an offensive guy.
Well, it was. It is not now. This person was an outfielder at the time of this trade.
Uh-huh.
He's now a pitcher.
It's not Brett Phillips.
I said he was on the Guardians.
I know. I just wanted an excuse to say Brett Phillips.
That's understandable. Is Brett Phillips a pitcher? I mean, what is Brett Phillips really? Where's the Gold Glove for that?
Yeah.
What? How do you define the Gold Glove for Brett Phillips?
That's true. Yeah, if Brett Phillips had won a utility Gold Glove, I think we'd be okay.
I would have respected that.
Yeah. There we go.
I would not have said a word if Brett Phillips had won that award.
Was an outfielder now. Yes. Okay, I know who it is now.
Okay, so you know all 3 of them. Okay, so do you want to take a crack at any of this? So the guy who's on the Guardians now, that was piece number 3. He was a minor league prospect at the time of this trade. He was an outfielder. He had quite a journey between then and now, but he is still in baseball, and he plays for the Guardians, and he was quite good for them this season. Actually got hurt, unfortunately, so he's not on the postseason roster because he was injured. But he was outstanding. He was a huge contributor to that team as a relief pitcher.
I got nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Well, that would be Irby. You want to say who it is, or you want me to say
it? Which one? That player?
Go ahead and
it would be not Anthony Goose, but Anthony Goes.
Yes, Anthony Goes. That's right. Once upon a time was an outfielder, and then he went on a very long and arduous journey. He went to Mordor and he came back a pitcher. Unclear what happens in the meantime. Actually, we know what happened to him, but I just picture him like trudging into Mordor and like throwing the ring into Mount Doom and then coming back a pitcher.
Who's his
How
Sam?
it works in my head anyway.
Does he have a Sam?
I'm gonna guess it was the Detroit pitching coach in 2016. Based on, according to my numbers, that's Sam, which is a really, really terrible answer to that. We'll think on that, see if we can come up with something better. But okay, yeah. So Anthony Ghost was one piece of this trade. The other two, as Irby mentioned, one was a starting pitcher, left-handed. If that helps anyone, this person was already in the majors when this trade took place. And then, of course, the other gentleman, a shortstop, who at this time was a prospect. He is technically still active. The starting pitcher is not. He retired before this season. He's now a full-time dad. Good for him. But we got two active guys here. One of them is Anthony Ghost, and the other one is the shortstop, who is, active is a rather nebulous term. This fellow got DFA'd a couple times this year, so I'm not sure he can be around that much longer. But Bo, any thoughts on either of these guys? I don't think either of them spent any time with Texas, so I can't help you that way. No.
You got any 80s hair bands?
No, but you can think about what she said at the beginning. It wasn't this trade. Think about Mr. Goes and the pitcher involved. Where they go next?
Yeah, that might mean something to you, actually, because they go again in a trade together somewhere else. Good job, Irby. Good job that you got that. Yeah, they're trade pals. It's like you can't send one. They're like Siamese twins for trades. You can't send one without the other. But yeah, they do go to the same place.
Unfortunately, I can't think of that trade either.
Well, okay, let's try this as a hint then. So they both go to Toronto, 2012.
Oh boy.
Yep.
After that, their paths diverged, right? They were trade pals for a little while there.
Wasn't that Toronto-Houston trade involved like 60 players?
Yeah, I was gonna do that trade, but I realized that was it was an entire show if we did that trade.
Yeah,
because there were I was up to 18 or something by the time I got to the end of the whole thing, and I was
take your high A team for our double A team.
At what point? Yeah, I'm like, do I do this? Do I say, okay, half of our show is a trade this week, or do we just do the thing where we're like, okay, give me 6 of these, and then we'll call it a day, and I'll just read off there. That trade is a mess. You could have an entire podcast based on that trade. You could probably do a season of a podcast based on that trade. But yeah, that one was a real doozy. But let's, I think we put enough time into this. This guy, last hint, which probably won't resonate with anybody except Philly fans, but this is a guy who everybody was really, really excited about when he was coming up for Philly as a rookie. And he never really became the guy that everybody kind of hoped he was, and he was serviceable enough, and he had a fairly lengthy and respectable career. But unfortunately, this guy kind of never panned out as the prospect that everybody, especially Philly fans, wanted him to be. So, with that said, Irby, who is he? Who is the left-handed starting pitcher in this deal? Anthony Ghost's trade Siamese twin.
Trade Siamese twin. Well, he's not J.A. No, he's just J. Hop.
Is he not J.A. anymore? Did he change that?
I believe he's just going by J. Like J.A. is just pronounce it J. But yes, it's J.A. Hop. J Hop.
It is J.A. J.A. J spelled J.A. Oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't know that. Yikes.
And now you do.
Take that back out of my brain. Terrible. Everybody said J.A. at the time, but at some point, whenever he said, I'm so glad I didn't know that, but I'm mad I know it now. Or do I want that removed from my head? Take it back.
And cut scene. Redo.
Time for some Inception. Get in there and remove that.
Yeah, and our last guy, I mean, the best hint I can give you is like his last name it rhymes with the last name of a sort of very, very famous Boston Red Sox from the 2004 team. Guy who's gone on to have a pretty successful career in media, one of the heroes of the Cowboy Up era of the Red Sox. I believe he was even responsible for the phrase Cowboy Up there. They have the same last name. It's just a different first letter, pronounced differently as well, but spelled the same. So if that helps anyone, I'm putting that out there. Right. Yes. Very good.
There you go.
I won't say rhymes with, but the same name, but stick a different letter on the front. So take the ILLAR and give me a different letter.
I actually had a few years in Baltimore, Bo. That might help you.
Yeah, I know
he did.
I'm trying to remember that. Is it Pilar? I think it's.
No, not Kevin Pilar. That only has one L.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Keep going that direction in the alphabet.
Yeah.
Well, you got me with who came up with the Cowboy Up. I knew who that was.
Yeah, Pilar.
The same first name as.
Keep going that direction.
Who does he have the same first name as, Irby? Who does he have the same first name as that would be relevant to Bo?
Current Rangers starting pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that narrows it down. There's like 12.
Well, no, that's a
okay. You didn't narrow it down to 12.
Yeah, because I was going to say it's closer than you were before. I mean, it is in some ways it is a form of the same first name as my husband. Does that help you?
There you go. Should narrow it down even more, Bo.
Yeah.
You would think. You really would think. I've got it. Again, it's one of those like I can see him, but I can't think of his name.
It's funny when I realized this. I don't remember him with Houston, but I do remember him as a Brewer.
Yeah, that's right after Houston. He goes to Brewers after Houston.
Brewers,
by the way, he doesn't get
Baltimore
called up
for
a couple of years. It's like 3 years before Houston calls him up. I think they called him up in.
Okay.
So he's still a prospect this time. He would have been very young. He didn't get called up for a number of years after this trade. So, and he does get flipped to Milwaukee eventually. All right, Irby. Time's up, everybody.
Time's up, everyone. But that's all right. For all you there, you did know who Jonathan Villar was.
Yes. All right, so that completes our trade. Let's just talk a bit about where these guys are now before we get out of here. Roy Oswalt spent the bulk of his early career, of course, with Houston from 2001 to 2010. He was then in Philly with 2010 for a couple of months, as well as 2011 with your Texas Rangers in 2012, Colorado in 2013, and then he called it a career. He started working for his former agent in 2014. I was not able to find any information about whether he still works for his former agent, but he does own a steakhouse in Starkville, Mississippi, wherever that is, I don't know, called 44 Prime. So good for Roy. He's eating some steaks. He might be working for his former agent doing, I don't know what. But next, Anthony Ghost. So Houston flipped him to Toronto in 2012 after this happens. And he is there until 2014. He then goes to Detroit from 2015 to 2016. At which point he makes his conversion from outfielder to pitcher. He spent some time briefly with Texas. Oh, wait, he was in Texas. Oh, wait, no, that was the other two where we were trying to use that hint. So, yeah, this is the one that actually was in Texas very, very briefly in 2017. He ends up in the minors with Cleveland in 2018. Finally makes it back to the majors as a pitcher this time around for Cleveland in 2021. And as of right now, he is still a member of the Cleveland Guardians roster in good standing. J-Hap, if you will. Philadelphia, 2007 to 2010. Houston, 2010 to 2012. Toronto, 2012 to 2014. Then spends part of 2015 in Seattle and part of it in Pittsburgh. Then he goes back to Toronto in 2016, stays there until 2018. He spends 2 years with the New York Yankees until 2020. Tries a brief stint with Minnesota as well as St. Louis in 2021. Decided to hang him up this offseason. He is now a full-time dad. And Jonathan VR, Houston, 2013 to 2015. He was in the minors before that, between 2010 when the trade occurred and 2013. After that, he goes to Milwaukee, as Irby already told you, from 2016 to 2018. And then Baltimore, which Irby also already told you, from 2008 to 2019. Spends time in 2020 in both Miami and Toronto. And then time with the New York Mets in 2021, and time with both the Cubs and the Angels in 2022. He was DFA'd on August 1st and is now, I believe, still technically a member of the Mariners organization, but he is in the minors as of right now.
All right. That's a fun trade. And nicely done bringing in this year's World Series combatants. Well done.
Had to be done.
Well done. Very impressive. All right. That's going to do it for us, though. We're out of here. Don't forget to give us a like, give us a review on whichever podcast service you're listening to us on. Hit us up on Twitter. Those Twitter handles are in the summation of the show. Until next week, watch the World Series. It's good for you.